able to, they don't always just hand it off to the vendor and then come back with it, because they're gonna ask you questions about what that vendor has provided. So you better understand at a high level what they have in their policy, and then go back, once the vendor has provided the information for, things to consider on what they currently have or things to consider on what they should have. Then you can have a better feel for that when you're explaining and dealing with a client. So I think review for macro considerations. For micro considerations, when you're getting in the weeds on these policies, the contractual language is so different, like I said, not only between carriers, but between the policies that certain carriers can provide. You really need a professional on board, and it can change rapidly. You have, major type of event, in the, hurricane type, that hits, that affects different contractual writing of certain language, or people need to mitigate risks on this version of this policy versus something you had, 3 or 4 years ago, because they need to make up more dollars and pay out less. You really have to, stay up to that, and this is not what we do day in and day out. It's what we have to be generalists on steroids. I'll use that comment a lot. We need to know enough about it to be dangerous, but we don't need to be able to break down the contractual language of 2 different policies. That needs to be where you need to rely and utilize the vendors' relationships we have for that. Steps in the process make sense. Evaluate final decisions on the coverage that's needed, if there need to be any changes as it relates to what's going on, and then what's the most cost-effective manner of carrier situation for that. And then follow on in the process, when applicable, assist or help on inquiries that they have, and then every, proactively, probably every 3, maybe even too soon, but 3 to 5 years, you need to go out and readjust that. You'll find yourself, at least I found myself in practice, reacting to more of what happens and what comes in this particular area. Just because, as Chris mentioned, it's not a huge benefit every 12 months or every 24 months to go out and reshop that. If you know that something's up with repricing, because you've seen it on 2 other clients that have Chubb, or that have, somebody gets hit with, Travelers, I think will not cover shaker roofs anymore. So anybody that has a shaker roof with Travelers probably don't get, canceled out. And does it make any sense to evaluate, look at that, shop it now versus, the Gulf's getting beat up in the time of the season? Does it make sense to change that now versus wait? I mean, you can kind of be proactive with some of, evaluating decisions like that. But more often than not, you're reacting and evaluating and dealing with what happens. What you are looking for in a good vendor relationship is somebody that contacts you, 15 to 30 days in advance of renewal, and say, Johnny Smith's premium went up to this level. We evaluated against everything else in the marketplace. He needs to stay where he is. Just wanted you to know about it beforehand. That simple item that I just said is pretty rare in the property and casualty insurance industry. When you think of vendors, whenever there is a high amount of clients for a low amount of premium dollars that they actually see, how good of service would we do if we had 4,000 clients, right? So you got to have somebody that, stress test their systems, always look for, I think, younger and hungrier is always oftentimes good in this particular industry, just because they'll stay on that proactive communication. Worst thing that can happen is, I hate walking into a meeting and somebody's grumpy because they got a big increase in their property casualty insurance,